I think we can begin. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to this presentation on sports scholarships and being a student athlete. We are very lucky today to have representatives from St. Michael's College here with us who are going to give us a ton of information on the topics and from different perspectives. So before we get into the content, I just want to give a short intro to Education USA and who we are. So if you don't already know, we are part of the U.S. Department of State, and we're a network of advising centers around the world. And our job is to offer accurate, comprehensive, and current information about opportunities to study at post-secondary educations in the U.S. And our services include advising, academic advising, whether it's one-on-one or in group. We do information sessions, whether they're on general topics or topics that are more specific, such as this one today, run by us as advisors or in collaboration with USHEI representatives. We organize university fairs, we do presentations at schools, we have a cohort advising program called the Competitive College Club, and much more. And important to remember that all of our services are free. So we really are here to help you and reach your goals of being able to study in the United States. So with that brief introduction, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Lisa. She's the Director of International Enrollment, and she'll be starting off this presentation today. Thank you so much, Lisa, for being here.
Thank you so much. And we are pleased to be here to talk with you today. As said, my name is Lisa Lagerquist. I am the Director of International Enrollment at St. Michael's College, and I have two colleagues with me here today who I'm going to ask them just to introduce themselves briefly to you right now as well. Matt?
Hello, everyone. Matt Akins here. I'm the Associate Director of Athletics, and I also work in NCAA Compliance as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wade Jean. I'm the head men's soccer coach here at St. Michael's, and looking forward to the discussion today.
Thanks so much to both of you. So today we are going to talk about why you might be interested in studying in the United States, who the student athletes are in the U.S., particularly from Spain, truths and myths about sports scholarships, what you need to know about the NCAA or other sports organizations in the U.S., a little bit about what it's like to be a student athlete. You're going to hear from Wade as a coach on the coach's perspective on recruiting athletes and kind of what you need to know if you're looking to play in the U.S. And we're going to give you some tips and resources. So next slide, please.
Lisa, I'm so sorry. I just realized that I didn't mention, just so people know, if they have questions, they can put it in the question and answer function there at the bottom, and we'll monitor it as we go through the presentation. And then at the end, we'll have time for questions. So do use that function, and we'll make sure to answer all of your doubts after the session.
Great, thank you. Yes, we definitely will intend to leave some time for questions. Great. So I want to start just by giving you a brief overview of our university so that you have some context about who we are and our perspective on admission and on working with student athletes. St. Mike's is a small residential liberal arts college located in Vermont. Vermont's in the northeastern United States. Being a residential campus means that our students actually all live on campus for all 4 years that they're at St. Michael's. We have about 1,500 students. We primarily offer bachelor's degree programs, and we have an honors program, and we offer what's called a liberal arts education in the U.S., which means that there's a lot of flexibility around what you can study, and that you don't actually have to apply specifically to one subject. You get admitted to our university, and we're really looking to give students a broad education. So that's just to give you a brief picture of who we are, and Matt's going to talk for a minute about what our athletics is and give you an overview of that.
Hello, everyone. As you see, we host a variety of sports, 21 unique sport opportunities. And this is to generally just give you an example of what our offerings may be. We have about 450 student athletes on campus. Also from our side, we are here today to talk to you about generalities from the NCAA, what that means, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, and we're going to keep it pretty general and may use examples of how we do things at St. Michael's College, but specific questions about recruiting to St. Michael's, maybe if you have those questions, we can deal with those offline. But we want to keep it general about what the different divisions are with the NCAA and what our other opportunities may be available as well.
Great, thanks, Matt. So, starting out with the bigger picture, why might you be interested in studying in the United States? So, I know you're here because you're interested in athletics, but I also want to give it some perspective on why students come to university in the United States. So there's several reasons you'll see up here on the slide. Some of them are around education. So just the quality of education in the US is known worldwide. Also, our approach is more student-centered. So particularly at a small school like St. Mike's, you're going to be working really directly with professors, and our professors are here to teach students and to work directly with students. There's also a focus on critical thinking, breadth of knowledge, and flexibility around what you're studying. And then also, in the US, you tend to find more opportunities for experience outside of the classroom. So that might be research, that might be internships. Much of education here is designed to give you those additional experiences. Then also, many universities in the US, or some at least, have a more residential college campus. So it is more than just your studying, it's that whole student life aspect where there are clubs, there are leadership opportunities, there's lots of ways to get involved and really connect with other students. Finally, there are around 4,000 plus or minus higher education institutions in the US. So there are lots of options. And of course, the athletic opportunities, which is what we're here to talk about today. Next slide now, thank you. And just kind of give you a picture, I did the NCAA, which Matt's going to talk more about, and has 3 divisions. They do publish data about international athletes and athletes in general in the US. So I just thought it might be interesting to share with you from their research in the last 3 years, so 21, 20, and 2019, in Division I and Division II, you can see how many international students from Spain were first-year student athletes in the US. And Spain is actually the 3rd biggest sender of athletes, international athletes, to the US in Division I, and the 5th biggest in Division II. And the top sports that Spanish athletes are playing are tennis, golf, and soccer. Next slide, please. All right, I'm going to turn this back over to Matt to tell you more about the NCAA.
Excellent. The U.S., as you are all probably quite aware, has a very unique model with combining athletics and academics and giving you an opportunity to play your sport and study academics as well. As Lisa mentioned, Division I, II, and III. Division I tend to be your larger schools, and your state colleges. Schools tend to be, and there's outliers of this as well, upwards to 20,000+ students attending those universities. And then your Division II and III tend to be smaller institutions. Division II, for the most part, have the ability to offer some athletic aid. Division III does not have the ability to offer athletic aid. Now, there is opportunities for academic and other aid opportunities, but noting that Division I and II have athletic aid opportunities. eligibility center, and we're going to show you a piece on that will give you more information. But all Division I and Division II student athletes that are incoming must go through what's called the eligibility center, and that is essentially to make sure everybody's maintaining an academic criteria and a benchmark and meeting the minimum standards. As I mentioned, we'll give you an electronic link that will show you that you need 16 core courses. No longer do you need a standardized test score. If that was just to make you aware of that part of it. But in a GPA of US equivalencies of a 2.2, and that will maintain the NCAA will review that and make a decision on your academic eligibility. They'll also discuss your amateurism and take a look at, have you ever played professionally, signed on with an agent, and they'll look back at what teams you may have played on, and you'll have to answer a questionnaire from that side of it as well. The last thing from this part is understanding what a gap year may look like, and taking a look at what year you graduated from high school. The NCAA permits 1 calendar year from the year you graduated to take essentially that year off to continue playing your sport before you enroll in the U.S. college. Any more than that, any more than a year, you have the potential to actually be charged with a season of competition from an NCAA standpoint, and have the depending on what you chose to do beyond that, they have the ability to make a decision where you have to sit a year prior to you being able to play. These are all good discussions. If this is something that you may feel you fit into specifically, we'll be sharing our information after, and I definitely can advise you on what may fit your unique circumstance in this case. All right. A lot of information there. I could spend 20, 30 minutes on this. And, I encourage you to, if you have specific questions towards like how you may fit and how this may come into your academic standards or so forth, please send me a message, and I'd be happy to discuss that part of it offline as well. Coach?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I think I saw some of the numbers, and some of the things that you're hearing may be a bit intimidating. The fact that you have an opportunity to enter the United States at the academic level across a number of institutions, not just NCAA Division I, Division II, or Division III. It can be NAIA or junior college options as well. And those really relate to where you're at in terms of your academic piece. There are actually a lot more Spanish athletes entering the United States. The numbers that Lisa showed you have a lot to do with Division I and Division II. But depending on where you are academically, even transferring from a Spanish institution collegiately over there or university, these young people get a chance to play and compete at the NCAA, NAIA, or NJCAA level based on where they're at in terms of their own academics. So it's not just graduating from a high school over in Spain. It could be you started university, and these opportunities are available and really can kind of be catered to and fit your needs depending where you are at. So I don't want you to think it's an intimidating process. We just this year alone, we've signed 3 players from Spain that have transfer university or just graduated from high school itself. So I think as you get into this process, making sure that when you're talking and communicating to people, they'll be able to have these answers and maybe alleviate some of that fear. Identifying kind of a U.S. college fit kind of is that, letting the coach, reaching out, sending an email, video, something that speaks to the level that you're playing at, and allowing them to kind of see you and evaluate your talents. And even in that process, that may help you find, as you start that communication with schools or areas of the country that you might be interested in attending school, that it'll stimulate conversation centered around that. Yes, you're of the level of this institution. While you're a pretty good player, we'd love to have you. We don't have scholarship, or we do have scholarship. A lot of those answers will be kind of answered in that first email that you send out. So when you put together an email, certainly you're talking about your academic experience and what you can do from that standpoint, but then you want to include the athletic component. Like I said, video, coaches' recommendations. We have a pretty strong understanding in the coaching community over here of the level that you're playing at, competing at. We're quite comfortable in letting you know if you're a fit, or even recommending other institutions that might be a good fit for you as you begin your process. And that may mean a year at a junior college or two. So there are a number of rules that, like Matt said, we could answer offline and help you with that process, but there are a lot of options. I think at the end of the day, what I really want to get across to you is that it's not that intimidating. It's an email, it's some information where you can send it out, let coaches know about you, and that will begin the process and make it quite easy. You'll begin to open up doors and make connections, and obviously have the answers that you'll need. The last piece, like what's the life of a student athlete? It can be rigorous at times. Obviously, yeah, you have your academic side, you have your athletic side, and then you have the side where you get to relax with fellow student athletes and students at the institution. So I found that all of my international students have really enjoyed the setup of the American system, where you can focus on your academics, then you have your training and you can continue to develop. If some of you are even good and want to consider trying to make it at the professional level, or you just want to compete at the university level and enjoy it. So I think the camaraderie, the community, and all those things that go around that experience as being an athlete are continued here at the college system and university system in the United States, and it's quite a positive experience as well.
I'll answer one of the question and answers. If I'm interested in talking with Coach Wade, how do we go about doing it? You'll see emails on the bottom of the slideshow, and I believe they'll share this information with everyone as well. But please feel free to reach out to any one of us by email is the best way to connect. And we'll be able to continue this conversation from there if you have any additional questions of what we said. And then female handball scholarships in the U.S. I would suggest that you, with anything, do your research. What schools may offer that, and start that communication. That's not a varsity sport that we offer here, but and off the top of my head, I don't quite have an answer for that. But I'm sure if you do your research, you'll find something along those lines.
I'm not sure if it's an NCAA sport, but on the NCAA website, you can filter by the sport and the division. So that is a resource for you. And I assume, NAIA and NJCAA might have similar kind of resources for you to be able to search according to your sport and maybe the division as well.
And we have that link for the NCAA, at least in our resources page when we get there.
Awesome.
I also just want to point out that this picture that you're looking at does include one of our international soccer players who doesn't happen to be from Spain. He's actually from Germany. But these are real live international athletes you're looking at, not stock photos that we picked up from somewhere. So, all right, Matt and Wade, looks like you guys are set. So we will move on. Thanks, Lenore. I wanted to talk a little bit here about scholarships and costs, and Matt and Wade probably will also have things they can add at the end if you have additional questions, or they will jump in if I say anything that needs more explanation. I think the first thing to understand, particularly if you're a student in Europe, is that the cost of a U.S. education can be high and the structure is different than Europe. So first of all, I always encourage students to look at, we talk about list price and net price in the US for university. List price is if you just go onto a school's website and you look up their tuition and their fees and their room and board. Those are the it's kind of like when you're shopping at H&M. there's the price on the ticket, and then things are often discounted. So list price is the price that's listed online. Net price is what you end up paying for your education. So there are several different ways to reduce that list price and make your actual costs lower. I'm sure most of you are here because you want to hear about athletic scholarships. And I think the important thing to understand about the U.S. educational system is that athletic scholarships are a whole range. So there are those scholarships that cover your full cost of tuition, room and board, even books. Those are limited, and they're only in certain divisions of the NCAA, and it's quite competitive to get those. But athletic scholarships also can be for less than the full cost of the tuition, but still would help you in paying for your education. In addition to that, there's also other ways to reduce the cost of your education. So many universities in the US offer academic scholarships, or what we call merit-based aid, which most often are based on your academics, but may also take into account your leadership skills, other characteristics, and other things that you're going to bring to the university. So those can range, again, from a very small amount up to sometimes full tuition. Some places you can combine different types of scholarships, sometimes you can't. It is obviously very complicated, but again, I think one thing we'll tell you today is to do your research and to keep asking questions to make sure you understand what the scholarships are that are available at any given school and how they combine or how they can reduce your costs. The other thing I will say about academic scholarships is it is important to remember that if you're going to be a student athlete in the US, you need to have that high athletic level, but you also need to be paying attention to your academics so that one, you can be admitted to a university and you will meet the admission criteria, and two, that you'll be successful as a student once you are on campus. I know at St. Mike's, we're very proud that our student athletes are ranked near the top in their academic achievements within the NCAA in Division II. And I always say, I am not a coach and I'm not an athlete. So I'm coming to this from the admission perspective. But I think as a parent and as an admission professional, it's important to remember that you're coming out of university at the end with a diploma and with an education that helps you be successful in life. And also the coaches will tell you you can't play if your academics are not meeting the minimum requirements. So all around, I got sidetracked about academics. I can do that. Beyond athletic and academic scholarships, there are some schools that offer need-based aid, not very many. So as an international student, if you do not have US citizenship, you will find that the aid based on your family income is lower. And again, that depends very much school to school. Then you might have heard people talking about getting student loans or working to pay for their education. Student loans are difficult to get in the US without a US cosigner. So that is usually not an option for international students. Work is limited if you are here on an F1 visa, so a student visa. You are limited to work 20 hours per week, and you may only work on campus, and that is across the US because that's a US government rule. So again, things to keep in mind when you are looking at the net price and what you will end up paying. And yeah, thank you, Lenore. So we have a couple tips we want to move on to help you as you are thinking about being a student athlete. And Matt, you have the first one.
Great. Yeah, I think as I reflect on this slideshow, one of the things that's, is my goal to come out of it with is the ability to ask the right questions, right? So that as you begin these conversations with coaches, admissions professionals, and so forth, what questions to ask. And my piece of advice for you is to start early on asking the right questions and getting to know whether it's the financial cost whether is this a good academic fit? Is this a good athletic fit? Do you connect with the coach? You know, all these questions, do you have the ability to ask them early and to find your list of schools that you may be interested in, and then coming down with a few that really meet the needs that you may have.
Thanks. So my tip, the next tip is to research your options, which I think, Matt has talked about. And in the next slide, we're going to give you some resources for learning about the NCAA, and also including that link to search for a university by division, sport, and also state. And as I mentioned earlier, there are somewhere around 4,000 universities in the US. So it's a lot of research to do, but I think the best thing is that I feel like there's something there for everyone. All right, Matt, costs.
Right. So Lisa did a great job explaining this. And no one of the institutions the same on how they work through their cost calculators. I would encourage you not to make sure you look at the difference in what the sticker price is and what it actually would cost you in asking those right questions from that standpoint, and what other aid may be available, accessible to you as an international student. Yeah, back to you, Lisa.
Thanks. And I think one other thing we had talked about there is also, you're looking at tuition, but also looking at living costs. So at St. Mike's, all of those costs come together because our students live on campus, so they pay for tuition and room and board. If you're looking at other universities, that may be more a situation where you need to find your own apartment, so you need to understand what the living expenses are locally. I think I already talked about academics a little bit. So, but again, don't ignore the academics, both in your preparation and also as you're researching schools. Look at how their student athletes are succeeding academically as well, because you want to come out of this at the end prepared for your career, as well as having really gotten to continue playing the sport you love.
And lastly, as I mentioned, with Division I and II athletes, they must apply and register through the Eligibility Center. This is something, going back to my first tip, is starting early on and getting the right information and documents submitted to the NCAA. They're going to require official transcripts to come from your academic institution. So making sure you register early and you go through this process, this doesn't slow down your ability to make a decision for Division I or Division II. There we go. And we'll give you more information on the Eligibility Center and where that is on the next slide.
Matt, did you want to talk about this one, or do you want me to?
No, I got this. We have, and when we get to the next one, we'll have this flyer that will show you about playing college sports, and that will kind of give you several links that will bring you to what we're doing. Do we mind to go down to go to the next slide?
I don't think it's, oh yeah, did I put it in the next slide? Sorry, Lenore, could you do the next slide?
Oh yeah, so it's,
yeah.
There you go. So you should have access to this link, and this is a very interactive page as well, that you'll have a link for the Eligibility Center where you need to register. It outlines the difference between Division I, Division II, and the credits that you need to be considered eligible. Can you scroll down a little bit, or is that the picture? Oh,
it's just the picture. Sorry.
That's fine.
I don't. Yeah.
Go ahead, Lisa.
The link is on the previous slide, so I don't know if it would work in order to click on the link or not.
Let's try.
Okay. The flyer for international students.
Oh, there we go.
Look at that.
This is, I think, the full.
That's the full thing.
Do we have the link to this, the one that we have on the slides?
Yes, it's, if you go back to that, it's the one that's called Flyer for
Oh,
International
thank
Students.
you. Excellent. There we
Yeah.
go. Got it.
There we go. So,
Would you like me to keep going down?
We can stay in the first page right there. And in consideration of all of our time, I'm not going to walk through this whole sheet with you. But it does a tremendous job of outlining exactly the requirements to be eligible to play at this level, Division I, Division II. And just so you're aware, from Division III, if the eligibility concerns from this side is if you're able to get admitted to these institutions, then you'll be eligible to play. So once again, this is a great starting point to give you a platform to have the right questions to ask the coaches, admissions counselors, and so forth as you begin this process.
Thank you. And this page also does a pretty good job of kind of giving you some steps to follow, you know, as you prepare to wanting to become eligible and playing sports at the collegiate level. So we can share the links to this in the chat. How about that? And that way everyone has it. Is there anything else you wanted to look at on this flyer?
No, I'm all good from my end.
Cool.
And like I said, I think that this will give you
Thank you.
the process of being able to ask the right questions. And feel free, once again, to share those with us if you have generic questions about this process as well.
Yeah, so I think we're ready for questions if you want to go on to the next one. And
Perfect. Okay, there's a few, thank you. That was awesome. Any last words you guys wanted to mention about any of the topics, or should we go on to the questions?
I think we're good with questions. Our contact information is here, and you are welcome to contact any of us if you have questions as well. But we certainly have time to answer questions as long as you have to ask them.
Okay, there's a few here. The first one is, in my case, I don't practice any sport professionally except chess. So I would like to ask if universities give opportunities to this sport and if the process is the same for other sports, you know, such as soccer, tennis, etc. What can we say about students who play chess?
I'll speak up on this one, and to be quite honest, I don't know what opportunities there are from an NCAA perspective, which is essentially what we're speaking on today, does not sponsor the sport of chess. I know that there's clubs, organizations that different campuses may have that may offer scholarships for those you know, different activities, and I know like esports is a big one. The NCAA doesn't sponsor it, but it's a club, and there's scholarship opportunities out there, right? So I would encourage you to do your research and see what's out there, and you know, good luck.
I might also add that even if you're not able to get a sports scholarship for chess with, you know, the NCAA or anything like that, if you are playing chess kind of at this high level and competing, that's something that you can obviously put on your application. The admissions process to U.S. universities is holistic. So they are going to look at not just your grades, which of course are very important, but what you're doing in your free time, what your extracurricular activities are. And so if, you know, if chess is a big one for you and that's important, that's definitely something that you can include and highlight in your application, which, you know, can be really interesting to universities. Okay, from Ellie, huge fan of any kind of sport, mainly basketball and soccer, but doesn't play on a team at the moment. Been playing soccer every chance I get since I was 5. And believes in themselves, can be a student athlete in the US as it is their dream. So would a university or college recruit for someone in my position or offer scholarships? And of course, thank you as well. So I guess, maybe we can look at the question in terms of how competitive does the athlete need to be in terms of getting recruited, and what are you looking for as a coach when you're recruiting for students to become student athletes and play on your team?
Ellie, it's a kind of a good question. I can give some insight to that because I think that happens a lot with the students that are interested in playing athletics in the U.S. And again, Lisa mentioned this earlier, there are 4,000 different institutions, right? So I think at the very top end, they may look at this and say, oh, okay, you're not in a club or you're not playing in the third or fourth division. That might be a difficult sell for some of those schools, but you certainly could be a talented player and just not have access or the exposure. So there would be other schools, not just NCAA, but NAI and junior college schools as well, that may look at that and see that as a very positive experience. And again, just maybe like Amos was a good example. He lives in the very northern part of Germany, and during COVID, he couldn't really play any games, right? The first and second division teams were the only ones that were allowed to play. He put together a really nice kind of video of himself playing individual techniques and shooting, and it was enough to stimulate an idea in my mind as a coach, and certainly enough for me to follow up and ask a lot of questions. So it can be done. You just have to be kind of conscious of the level. So you may not be at the very top end of the ladder, but that doesn't mean that the teams lower down that aren't looking for someone like yourself that plays soccer that could be quite good at it. Just make sure you have some video and some other things to kind of back up that experience, and they'll be happy to get back to you and let you know if it fits.
Awesome, thank you. How was your experience with a Spanish soccer player last year?
It was quite good. I think we've kind of enjoyed our Spanish players over the last few years, and Javi had 4 fantastic years with us, and he's getting to graduate this spring, and we'll certainly miss him. And because of the Spanish kids that we had before, it is kind of brought us back to obviously wanting more. They seem to be very good socially. They do well in the classroom. They adapt very well, and they seem to enjoy that experience, right? So for us, it's been very positive, and I think a lot of institutions, even within our own conference, have a number of Spanish players. So I think all the schools can say, quite frankly, they've enjoyed their athletes that have come from Spain. It's been a very good experience.
Thank you. And I'm going to kind of ask a follow-up question to that of what is maybe the day in the life of a soccer player? I mean, what does it mean to be a student athlete that is playing soccer at your institution? I mean, you can kind of use yours as an example of what that looks like. You know, how might their day or their week look like?
You know, that's a fair question. I think it's centered around their interests, right? Obviously, what they want to major in. So a typical day for us, say in the spring, they get up, have breakfast, get to class in the morning. We train right in the middle of the day, so they have no classes there in a 2-hour block where they'll come. We have weightlifting, strength and conditioning 3 days in that week, and then the other days we're training. And then right after that, go get some lunch, and then back to class in the afternoon. So it will take up a big chunk of their day, but again, it's something that they're passionate about. They enjoy it, the camaraderie of the team, and they have to balance that. Now, that doesn't mean every individual makes certain practices. Obviously, if there's a very important class during that time, or a testing opportunity, or extra credit, any of those things, we make sure they get to the academic side of the house first. But we also recognize that it's a passion of theirs, that sport and the enjoyment of that sport will contribute to their life and how they enjoy their experiences here. So we try to make it certainly a positive experience and really feed both sides of that. We want them to be very strong academically and graduate and have great jobs, but we also want to feed that passion that they have in terms of the sport of soccer, right? So making sure that the training is a high level, building their body, talking about nutrition. We have strength and conditioning coaches. We have athletic trainers and doctors that will help them through any injuries. So it really is an experience that they may get at a very good club, actually in Spain, right, where they're getting a lot of those components taken care of. It just happens to be encompassing what they want to do as a student as well as their athletic interest.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a question. Somebody from Turkey who is a horse rider, they're interested in show jumping, and they're ranked worldwide, so they're performing kind of at a high level. Is that option for scholarships? Are there sports scholarships for horse riding?
Yeah, so I'll answer this the same way with the martial arts.
Great, yeah, we can combine those.
As it's very similar to chess, the NCAA does not sponsor that from that standpoint, but I'm sure there's some clubs and organizations at one of the 4,000 NCAA institutions, even beyond, right? Because there's more colleges available in the United States that aren't just NCAA institutions. So I would encourage, once again, to do the research, as simple as a Google research and seeing what offerings may be out there from that standpoint. So really, I don't have a ton of information just because it's a little bit outside of my scope personally. But I'm sure that the research will bring you to the right path.
I would also add, again, we would refer you back to that NCAA directory to start with. So if I just add equestrian, I can see that there are some equestrian schools. I don't know that they give scholarships, but it would be a great place to start to see who has some equestrian competition at least.
Perfect.
And then, as Matt said, there are, beyond the NCAA, there are other organizations overseeing college sports in the U.S.
Could you explain how to earn credits that are needed to enter the NCAA as an international student athlete? So I guess they're talking about high school credits that you need to have to be eligible, is how I'm understanding this question. Is that also what you guys are reading here?
Yeah, so great question, and one that once you start the conversation with your coach, they're going to connect with the compliance person if you're looking at NCAA Division I or II. One of the first things they're going to ask for is to take a look at your transcripts and work through your transcripts and what it may look like from an eligibility standpoint. From my role, one of the first things that I do is make sure that they submit their most up-to-date transcripts to the NCAA, and then the NCAA will begin that review process. But from my role, I can kind of give an idea of what courses a student may bring in and may count as core courses. And I know Lisa, not to speak from her, she has the ability to take a look at the transcripts as well and kind of give an idea and have a feel of where that's going to stand from that standpoint.
Great. Okay, so there are organizations that help you register in the eligibility center, and they charge you for that. So will you be more successful with professional help? Can students do this on their own?
Yes, students can do this on their own. And I think that's what's great about this webinar is hopefully you all, like I said, leave here with knowing the right questions to ask. And if you start your process tomorrow, going in and having these conversations with the coach, the admissions personnel, and so forth, and my position on campus across all the NCAA institutions are there to walk you and help you through this process, and no charge, right? We work with an institution. We're gonna work through you with that eligibility as well.
And when should they start? Because you said, oh, maybe after this webinar, they'll get started. When is a good time to start this whole process of searching and reaching out to coaches and thinking about going the sports scholarship route?
Yeah, so I think that there's two perspectives. There's a coach perspective and there's a missions and compliance perspective. In not knowing the range of students that we have on this call, I would say as early as their junior year or their second last year of high school, from my side, they can register with the eligibility side. Lisa, you could probably answer more of the missions application side, and that may be a little bit later. And Wade, do you want to hit on from a recruitment standpoint?
Yeah, I think most schools are pretty accommodating. Certainly in the process, a year out would be better just because it'll allow a lot of these steps to take place. But it also can be as short as 2 months out, right? And so many things would happen to have to happen so fast. It is attainable. It's difficult, but it is attainable. So I think what coaches, and when you come, like, you may just start your process and a coach may see you at the last minute, and then it really depends on each individual institution in the admissions department. But a lot of these things can happen relatively quick, but I think a year out is pretty safe in terms of making sure your academics and all of those things that you need to have in place are there.
And I'll just, I think, add into that. The resource we put on that has the Spanish page has, first of all, So talking about how early to start, I think you could start your research as early as 3 years ahead if you really want to. If this is something that's really a goal for you, it does take some time to really understand what's available in the US. So you could start as early as 3 years ahead to really start kind of narrowing down what a good institution academically for you is, as well as perhaps what the athletic levels are. The Spanish link that I gave that had the NCAA specifically Spanish resources. And there are pages like that for other countries too, because I know we had someone from Turkey here. That's a good place to look at for academics to make sure that you are working to get the academic qualification you need to be eligible to play, at least in the NCAA, or at least to know, I know many countries have different levels of high school academics. So you could be in a can't speak Spanish, but you could be at more of a university preparation, getting a high school diploma that way, or you could be doing a different level of high school diploma. So you want to make sure that you understand as you're planning your last several years of high school, what that's preparing you for in the US.
Thank you. Are all sports practiced throughout the year, or due to weather, are there breaks and the possibility of practicing another sport? So I guess also, can you be on multiple sports teams?
You certainly can. Again, I think it comes to the level and the quality of that individual in terms of the two sports, but we've had multiple sport athletes here. In my time, we've had soccer players and swimmers and baseball players and soccer players. So, and I know it's happened a lot on the women's side as well. So that certainly can be done. At the NCAA Division I and II level, it is kind of a year-round experience. So there's not as big of a break, say, at the NCAA Division III level, where the calendar is a little bit more limited, and Matt could speak to the specific days. But if you kind of look at Division I and Division II, you'll be doing something primarily involved in your sport for pretty much the whole year, with the exception of leading up to midterms or final exams, some of those things where we give you a good week leading up to that off so that you can focus on that part of it. But you certainly can compete at two different sports.
Yeah, to put in perspective, of 450 student athletes that we have currently, we only have 5 multi-sport student athletes.
So it's not the most common situation.
Correct.
And many of them are probably cross-country runners and cross-country skiers. Is that right, Matt?
Yes, so 3 of them are that. Correct.
Because we do have snow here, so we have people that do both those sports.
And I think he overlooked that part of it, but they do have indoor training. We have a indoor hard court that is decent size, and we also speaking for soccer and a couple of our other sports, we rent out a turf facility that where they can do winter games as well. So, yeah, great question.
This is about the minimum you request to enter swimming, I guess minimum level for getting, for example, swimming scholarship. And maybe how would you know what is the minimum level that more generally a sport at a certain institution is looking for or coach is looking for?
I think that one might be a little bit easier. The swimming, depending on what event or focus you're in, you can submit your times, and those individual programs and institutions will be able to let you know how that fits in with what they're trying to do. So it's a little bit more documented, right? If you're in the 100-meter swim and you have a specific time, that can relate quite easily to what the coach may be looking for.
Yeah, I'd agree with Wade. I think we have quite a few international students on our alpine ski racing team. And one of the things I appreciate when I'm recruiting for admission is that if students ask me about alpine ski racing, there's very clear numbers that you need to meet. So there are sports like swimming and other racing sports where you can get a pretty good idea of the times or the level that's required, where I imagine for Wade, soccer's much more nuanced. And I think one thing you might do is, I know for most of our sports, you can look up and see how they, you can see on our athletics website the results from recent meets or recent competitions, and you could look at what the times are for students or athletes. But to Matt and Wade's point, also, the coach will probably tell you very easily.